In this section we are going to drop the motor out of a classic Funduro F650. First thing we're going to do is take off the belly pan, and that makes it a little easier to change the oil, to drain the oil. There's 4 screws, 2 on the bottom and 2 in the front, and once we get these 4 screws out, the belly pan just drops off. The sump bolt is a 17mm bolt. There's not much oil in the sump, but you got to drain it. The side panel is held with 5 screws. There's 4 that are easy to see, and then there's 1 up under the front near the radiator, near the piece that goes across the radiator. So we're going to take the side covers off. All right, now I'm going to take the drain bolt out of the frame. Hopefully I won't make too big a mess. Now I'm going to take a lot of the body work off, just to make the bike more accessible. Once you take the seat off, there's 2 screws that hold the side cover. One of them is under the seat, and then the other one's down here. And then there's a rubber grommet thing that just pops out. And if you have some kind of luggage rack, you got to kind of bend the pan a little bit to get it around there. The windshield is held on with 4 bolts that go into rubber well nuts. So first we take the bolts out. Okay. With the well nuts out, the windscreen just pops off with the bolts out of the well nuts. And then the dash panel comes out. Sometimes the well nuts stay in the dash panel, sometimes they stay in the fairing. You don't want to lose those. Okay, to take the gas tank off, we're going to take, with the lowers already off, we're going to take these 4 bolts out on each side, and then there's 1 bolt in the back. With the fairing disconnected from the tank, or tank from the fairing, we take the bolt out of the back. If you grind this to a dull tip, you can use it for the crank stop bolt for when you do valves. Then we take the fuel line off, and then the gas tank just lifts off. Okay, now it's time to drain the coolant. So you want to get your drain pan under there, and then you loosen the bottom bolt that holds the water pump, and open the radiator. While the radiator's draining, we'll take the fairing off. There's 4 bolts that you can see. You only need to remove the 2 on the sides. The 2 in the front hold the headlight. So when we get these 2 bolts out, the fairing's going to fall off. So it's nice to either catch it or put a towel on top of the fender to protect it. Once these bolts are off, the only thing holding the fairing on will be the turn signal connectors, and they just pull loose. So here we go. Then you take the headlight loose and the parking light, and away we go. Now we're going to take the battery out. It's not 100% necessary. It should absolutely be disconnected, but it's always a good idea just to get it out and away from the bike when you're doing a lot of work on it, because you never know when you're going to drop a wrench. So there's 1 screw that holds the battery retainer, and then you always want to pull the ground first, and then pull the hot. I like to put the battery bolts back in the battery, that way they won't get lost and the nuts won't get lost. And the battery itself pulls out, but you got to take the overflow tube loose, and then you can put the battery aside. Since the radiator's drained, I'm going to go ahead and remove the radiator hose from the engine. These are not the stock clips. The stock clips you just got to pop loose with a screwdriver. They're supposed to be single-use clips, but you can put them back together if you're clever. I prefer these kind. This is a stock factory clip, and these are how you stick a screwdriver in and just sort of twist it, and they pop loose. In order to put them back together, you can take a pair of channel locks and get a short, flat screwdriver bit for a hex drive, and you can put the jaw of the channel lock here and put the screwdriver tip in there and squeeze them back together. Then we're going to take the radiator overflow hose loose, which is just one of those hair clips. All right, and we're going to take a tie wrap loose so that we can get the fan unplugged. And there's a little tab you have to push to release the fan. And now the only thing holding the radiator is 2 bolts. To get the radiator bolts out, you need a 10 millimeter and an 8 millimeter.
And 6 millimeter.
Sorry, 10 millimeter and a 6 millimeter. All right, with the 2 top bolts out, the radiator itself just lifts up out of the rubber grommets and comes out of the bike. Okay, we're going to take the countershaft sprocket cover off, which is 3 bolts. One of them's a little tricky to get to, so we'll do that one last. To get to the last one, what we're going to do is depress the brake pedal so we can get the wrench in there. I'll just use my knee. Okay, and cover comes off. All right, now we're going to take the oil filter out. This is always messy, so I stuffed the rag in there. On the Classic, there's only 2 bolts, unlike the later models that have 3. So we take the 2 bolts out. And there goes the oil. And to get the oil filter out, I've created a special tool out of a coat hanger, and it just pulls the filter out. Once the filter's out, you can turn it and let it drain. Take your rag and wipe the oil cavity. It's always a mess. While we're here, we'll just go ahead and disconnect some of the electrics. Put the spark plug leads off. Got the spark plug leads. This is the sensor for the temperature light or temperature gauge, and this is the sensor for the fan. So now this side of the motor is pretty clear. I'm going to go ahead and get this hose off the top cover while I'm here. Alright, and then we have to do the exhaust system. So